There really isn't anything quite like a Yakuza game. Like a Dragon, formerly known as the Yakuza series in the West, is perhaps the most chaotic video game series produced today. From changing the core game design from a real-time combat beat-em-up to a traditional turn-based RPG akin to Dragon Quest in the 7th entry, and more importantly to this video, the juggling of starkly different tones within each of the games. The Like a Dragon series has been praised for its depictions of dark and twist-ridden plots of government and Yakuza conspiracies, with a fleshed-out cast of memorable characters that feature some of the most engaging and complex character moments in all of gaming. However, the series is also known for its sillier elements. This unique depiction of both a serious and comical portrayal of the Yakuza was a hit in Japan when the original game was released in 2005, with the game selling over 1 million units on the PS2 overall. With the successful launch of a potential franchise and a second game already in development, the idea of a live-action adaptation of the first game became a lucrative proposition for the Sega higher-ups. This would materialise into the strangest video game adaptations I have ever seen, with Like a Dragon Prologue by Takeshi Miyazaki, releasing in 2006, being followed by Like a Dragon the movie by Takashi Miike in 2007. Both these movies are a beast in themselves, with each displaying different philosophies and how a video game should be adapted for the big screen. So in this video I will be analysing / recapping how both films differ from the game and whether they are successful as adaptations of this beloved franchise. Like a Dragon Prologue, directed by Takeshi Miyazaki, released directly to DVD in 2006, acting as a prequel to both the movie and the PS2 game itself. It covers the unseen childhood of Nishiki, Kiryu and Yoko and Yumi in the Sunflower Orphanage, a setting which was never covered within the original game or even Kiwami. Despite the added depth given to Nishiki and Kiwami itself, it begins with a focus shot of a male sunflower within the Sunflower Orphanage, a recurring image within this film representing the relationship between the four characters of Kiryu, Nishiki, Yoko and Yumi. This gives the film an unexpected art house feel, reflecting the film's focus on character relationships rather than the bombastic action that the series is known for. The serious tone is furthered in the graphic depictions of Yumi's mother being murdered by the Yakuza on the street, setting the overall tone of the short film as a portrayal of the more serious elements of Yakuza's PS2 story. Yumi is taken to the Sunflower Orphanage, which is set up by the Dojima family, as an orphanage of all the children he himself has orphanaged as his days as a hitman. Yumi is shown to be settling in for new friends, with Nishiki and Kiryu becoming particularly close to her. The film fast forwards to a fight 3 years later between Kiryu, Nishiki and some schoolyard thugs, with Kiryu actively trying to protect Nishiki, foreshadowing his eventual resentment of Kiryu's capableness, as is displayed in the game. Yoko is revealed to be sick, a plot point that is only tangentially referenced in the game itself, but is expanded upon within Kiwami, with Kazuma offering to pay for her hospital treatment, gaining Kiryu and Nishiki's respect. Both Kiryu and Nishiki discuss their admiration for Kazuma on a riverbank, reflecting in their own ambitions to become Yakuza due to Kazuma's example, despite both their parents being directly killed by the organisation, with Nishiki reflecting that Kazuma always did things before him, hinting at his later resentment at Kiryu's eventual rise in the Yakuza world. Both boys leave the orphanage, with Kiryu leaving Yumi a ring with her name engraved upon it, a ring that was originally given to Yumi during the prologue of the first game as a birthday present in 1995. The film jumps to 1995, where we see both Nishiki and Kiryu as successful Yakuza members, with Kiryu just recently gaining his iconic dragon tattoo. These scenes portray the brotherly relationship between both characters that I feel was lost in the original game, with this somewhat being rectified in both Kiwami and more substantially in Yakuza 0. bears mentioning, however, that the actor that plays Kiryu looks nothing like Kiryu in both the game and even the future adaptation by Miike. Anyway, on October 1st, 1995, Kiryu announces to his friends that he's ready to create his own Yakuza family, which only lacks a go-ahead from the chairman of the Dojima family. However, Dojima kidnaps Yumi from Serena, with Nishikiyama attempting to interfere, only to be restrained by Doja's bodyguards, with Nishikiyama eventually reaching the chairman's office. He finds his boss attempting to SA Yumi and shoots him dead. Kiryu, who was at the meeting with Kazuma before getting a worry call from Reina, arrives to find Dojima's dead body on the ground. Nishikiyama is in shock and Yumi is curled up in fear, whereas Kiryu decides he will take the responsibility for Dojima's murder in order to protect Yuko, who needs her brother, Nishikiyama, as she is about to get a desperately needed operation for her heart. Kiryu orders the pair to leave before the police arrive and holds Nishikiyama's gun, ready to surrender. The police conclude that the shooting is none of their concern and Kiryu is sentenced to prison. While en route to the hospital, Yumi has a flashback to her parents' murders and tries to jump out of the car. Nishikiyama calms her down, but she then escapes from the hospital and goes back to the only place she feels safe, Sunflower Orphanage, which is now closed and in ruins. The film ends with Kiryu nearing the end of his 10-year sentence and awaiting release. Now, it's obvious that in the film, the priority was conveying the characters' drama present between Nishiki, Kiryu and Yumi, with only light comedic elements found within the film. Despite the overt seriousness of the film, I believe it was able to convey levity in the interactions between the characters as children, making them feel more believable and complex in comparison to the betrayal in the original game and even Kiwami. Despite even the great strides that Kiwami took in fleshing out the relationship between the orphans, such as seeing how Nishi's care for Yuko eventually led to his villainous downfall, I believe that the film is still worth a watch as a short prologue to the games. Coming off this film, Miike was tasked with adapting the rest of the Yakuza story in his 2007 film, Like a Dragon the Movie. Now, it might be assumed that despite this change in directors, the film continues to prioritise a compelling character drama with a dark, serious tone. That is not what happened. Like a Dragon the Movie is an absolutely insane film, from its writing to its characters and even the story itself, or lack thereof in this case. The film operates less like a cohesive narrative and rather as a selection of loosely connected vignettes surrounding Kiryu and Haruka's attempts to find their mother, Yumi. The majority of the serious tone and character setup by the prologue are rarely touched upon within this film, with characters such as Nishikiyama not even being present until the final 20 minutes.
10 years in the joint made you a fucking pussy!
Kiryu and Haruka's story overall acts as a background for various original characters not found within the original game, with key characters such as Yuya and Haruka receiving minimal introductions to the audience. Akin to the sub-stories found within the series, the movie focuses on the dilemmas of 5 principal groups: Kiryu and Haruka's search for Yumi, a Pofo's employee, Satoru, and his girlfriend's crime spree within Kamurocho, a Korean hitman named Park's attempts to track down who stole the 10 million yen from the Tojo, 2 bank robbers holding a bank hostage after finding no money due to the 10 billion yen incident, and last but not least, Goro Majima's search for Kiryu. The film jumps between these plots sporadically, so instead of a chronological breakdown, I will be examining these characters' arcs individually as they contribute to the film as a whole. The character arc mainly follows the original game, featuring Kiryu and Haruka's search for her mother, Yumi. However, the film strangely begins almost halfway through the original game's plot, with Kiryu and Haruka helping a stray dog from attackers, meaning that any and all backstory is neglected within the film. The audience is never given an extensive backstory for Haruka or Kiryu, with the film instead almost requiring a secondary knowledge of the characters from the game in order to even understand the plot of the film. This makes the film unapproachable to the average audience member, with crucial plot points such as Kiryu's relationship with Nishiki and the 10 billion yen incident being only mentioned in passing. This positions the film in a unique sense, with the plot and characters only being able to be understood through the audience's own experience with the game story, making it more a film for the fans of the games rather than anything. This already positions the movie as insufficient as a direct adaptation of the game due to its reliance on the audience's knowledge of the game in establishing a coherent plot, an issue which is further exacerbated in the film's focus on side characters. Instead of focusing on the story of Kiryu and Haruka, the film attempts to portray the city of Kamurocho as a whole through a almost vignette-style approach. The main people involved in this are Satoru and Yu, who are a couple that are involved in a crime spree over one night in Kamurocho. The girlfriend steals money after her stores are disrupted by Kiryu kicking the shit out of some thugs. The audience is left wondering, however, why the girl is doing this, and why the boyfriend is even going along with it altogether. The serious tone returns to an extent when Yu is eventually gunned down by the Yakuza, where it's implied that she was going to have his baby or something. However, despite time placed upon them, the audience isn't given reasons to care about these characters as they aren't very deep or complex. Basically, they're typical teenagers. The backdrop bills are instead used as levity and dark comedy within the film, which are very entertaining and allows for Date to be in the film, where otherwise he wouldn't even have a point to be in there. On the other hand, the Korean hitman Park is also used as a kind of irrelevant character, as he just gives the audience information about Jingu, who is played by the man himself, Toshihiro Nagoshi. What an absolute Chad. As I have laid out, the film is extremely scatterbrained in terms of a cohesive plot, with too many sub-characters leading to a confusing narrative overall. However, despite how it may appear, I do admire the clear dedication and admiration that Miki and his crew have towards the original game, with him even playing the original and developing the movie based on his own interpretations and feelings towards characters.
読むでしょうし、ゲームが原作であればやっぱりやらねばなるまいということで、プレステ2を買いまして、で、ほとんどゲームやったことないんで、初心者に近いんですけどね、3日間仮眠を取りながら3日間で、イージーモードですけどね、最後まで全クリしまして、すごくただ目的はそういう原作だからということで始めたんだけど、やってるうちに面白くなって、でいろんな登場人物に自分なりのゲームのプレイヤーとしての思い入れができて、その思い入れが今度映画の中に反映されてて、みんな出てくるやつみんないいんですよね。だからすごく、不思議な
と劇場映画にもなれるぐらいの作品にしたいなっていうのがあって、実際それが話としていい形で舞い込んできて、劇場版は劇場版で楽しめる内容にもして、でお互いはお互いのその面白さを損なわないようなっていうシナリオ、結構難しいテーマなんですけど、それは非常に今まだ作ってる最中ですけど、いい感じの仕上がりになるんだろうなっていうふうに期待は多いしてます。
Towards characters. This can clearly be seen in superb usage of stylistic techniques within fights, and deep cut references such as the use of Stamina X in the final fight with Mishiki, being perhaps one of the best implementations of in-game mechanics in an adaptation ever, and also is hype as fuck. This can clearly be seen in the representation of Majima within the film. Being perhaps the best part of the film overall. I have to say, Majima is literally perfect within this film, being expertly played by Goro Kishitani. Despite the lack of backstory given to the audience, like much of the cast, brings a liveliness to the role that equals or even surpasses the original. Keep in mind that this film was made before Majima became such a pivotal and recognisable part of the series, with his only mainline appearance being within the original game at the time, who was portrayed as a wacky character overall but more or less intimidating. In a way, this film could be seen as a precursor to the more exaggerated appearance of Majima within both Kiwami and Zero, such as the Majima Everywhere system in Kiwami, making him a focal point of the majority of the game's surrealness and humour. However, in examining the two films, it is apparent they both take honest but radically different approaches to adapting the source material. With the seriousness of the prologue to the chaotic surrealism of Miike's movie, both films are able to adapt certain aspects of the series without either really coalescing into a cohesive final product. This brings up the question if such a property could ever be cohesively adapted whilst retaining the unique and balanced surreal comedy and drama that the Yakuza series is known for. As it is also important to point out that the games do have the luxury of having a primarily focused and serious main story, whilst also allowing the player to engage with the often surreal and wacky side stories, making a more curated format, such as film, ill-equipped to express this fluidity of tone. Sega have clearly not given up on their attempts to adapt the series to live action, with another movie adaptation currently being in development, in which I am cautiously optimistic that they may develop a film that truly lives up to the series' unique tone. Well, that's it for this video. Please like and subscribe, as it really helps me out. Leave your comments on what adaptation you prefer and what direction do you think the movie should take. Ligam signing off.